Thanks so much for having me here today. I am really honored to be among so many amazing people working on better broadband and connectivity. I am Deborah Simpier. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Althea. At the core of what we do is like a routing and billing platform for community or distributed type of networks where there's not just one sole owner of both the infrastructure and the service layer. And that definitely has brought us to the intersection of a lot of support for tribal and rural broadband, or just broadband connectivity in challenging places. And sometimes that can be urban too. So really exciting to talk today with Max about more than just kind of broadband to the home. And that's what's so exciting about LTE, is that we can really start looking at connectivity as a holistic thing. A lot of our rural communities suffer from lack of good cell phone coverage, right? Or we're now having the ability to do things with smart ag and IoT, and the possibilities are really as big as the imagination is. And those choices about how we set up and design the network infrastructure of LTE type networks affect the sovereignty and revenue and business case of the network. So we really want to kind of share some different ideas about what that could look like. And with that, I will introduce Max, if you want to talk a bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Max Orcutt. I work at Dish Network. I lead the roaming team for 5G roaming at Dish, and I also work on strategic partnerships for building community networks, and so that brings me to working with the tribal nations. So we're really excited to talk about some of the spectrum sharing options that we are co-developing with Althea, and want to thank Indigenous populations as stewards of the land since time immemorial, and I think we can build a more connected world together.
Love that vision. Should I start off with like a few quick slides? I'm cognizant we only have about 10 minutes, but I thought I might want to kind of frame a little bit what the discussion here is. Give me 2 seconds and look at that. All right, is everybody seeing a nice black screen? There we go.
There we go.
So I think we all know why connectivity is important, but I think kind of what I wanted to preface the conversation with is a bit what I was saying earlier about LTE is different than just fixed wireless, in that we're able to start to bring connectivity to the device level. So we can start to think about, what does that mean for a smart city? What does that mean for the utilities and the monitoring of natural resources like water and agriculture, also roaming, cattle and livestock. And then also too, we can think about, I think what's also interesting is that we will have an evolution of more connected devices, like agriculture. You're going to have your John Deere has a SIM in it. So who's providing connectivity to all these different devices? How is that set up? And how do you want to design it? I think are really the exciting questions that we can get into. So one of the things that we have been working on too with Dish and partners like Spencer has been designing a core that's portable, that can be owned and operated by smaller operators like tribal networks, and then can roam with larger carriers too. So what we can do with that then is have infrastructure that the tribal network can own and operate, and that can then be used in roaming. And I'm cognizant of the time here, so I'm going to try to turn this over to Max to kind of like flash out a little bit of what some of those options will look like. Happy if we have a few extra minutes to kind of come back and wrap up the presentation too.
So I think some of the interesting things that um, are notable to bring up would be the creation of potentially tribal-owned MVNOs, which means mobile virtual network operator. And so a lot of tribes could then kind of set up their own telco companies and not only provide to the home, but also mobile broadband via a smartphone. And so that's kind of what we have been working with Deborah in conjunction with. I know a lot of tribes gained access to the 2.5 gigahertz spectrum, and Dish also has some spectrum of its own that it may overlay onto those lands. And between kind of the combination of those two technologies, tribes really enhanced ability to exercise their sovereignty by bringing broadband to their lands, as well as a mobile phone network that is tribal owned. And so that's kind of what we've been working with Deborah and Spencer on, is the technology side of how to blend those two things, whether it be through the mobile core or the evolved packet core, and then into the radios themselves over those lands and creating that coverage.
I did also want to like highlight that really awesome thing that you said too, which was looking at different ways of utilizing spectrum licenses, right? So I think we all know, or a lot of us know, the pains of working in the unlicensed space. It gets pretty crowded. You get a lot of problems pretty quickly, and getting licenses can be really expensive. So I really appreciate that, there's conversations happening about maybe there's a better way to share spectrum or license spectrum, or maybe there's some different configurations to solutions that we can have to provide that access in those licensed spectrum. So I'm excited to see what we all come up with together, and what that future holds. And I think 2.5 gigahertz CPRS really opened up the space for smaller operators and tribal networks to start to familiarize and get used to and pilot like what it means to be a cell carrier, maybe, right? And I think there's exciting and times ahead.
To kind of play off of that as well, I think the value of the program extends beyond just better coverage and having broadband, but a lot of new career opportunities where there might not have been before for local residents, whether that's engineering, software development, tower building, all of the different jobs that go into supporting a smaller carrier will now be jobs available on those lands, which are participating in programs like this.
Yeah, and I think what's really exciting too is all that knowledge and all that talent base has really been siloed inside of larger carriers. So this really, opens up that to, a much wider group of folks, right, who can participate in that, innovate on that. I think we're going to see, new participants come in, learn about it, make new innovations too. So exciting.
Definitely. And I know we were only given a 15-minute slot, but I'd love to hear potentially some feedback or thoughts to the outline that we've with y'all, so that we may also revise our strategy or dig deeper in places that you guys find there may be interest to your communities.
Yeah, I think we can take a few minutes to have some discussion. I think that's a great idea. So if you have a question, chat or raise your hand or speak up.
I've got a lot of questions, but I didn't want to jump right in unless someone else went. So I'll just ask one and or make more of a comment, which is, I think this is like really important in terms of the ability to offer telephone service, in that it may free up subsidies to be used for other things. And so to the extent that families may have to choose between using a pot of federal dollars for telephone or internet access, if they are able to get this access to telephone service, that would be very helpful. And I think some of us that are perhaps a bit more affluent may forget how important telephone service is for accessing certain government services and things like that. And so even then, the fact that people often have limited minutes on subsidized plans, this could be tremendously important and really beneficial for people.
I think there's also, as we explore and pilot out this technology, there's a resilience as well. So if you have, a mobile connected network and it loses connectivity to the rest of the internet, I mean, there's a possibility to create a network that also continues to provide that local access in the event of a disaster, things like that. So I think that's the exciting things when we think about this is greenfield, right? We can say, look, how should a network look, right? How should cell phone access look like? And so yeah, I definitely agree that there's more than just broadband to the home that are the needs of our communities here.
Lyle has an interesting comment in the chat too, about his offline video streaming service. I think that's a really interesting and neat idea, that also kind of bifurcates the similar to how Christopher was talking about internet or access to mobile broadband, access to telephony services, but then also access to entertainment. And I think there's also a lot that we could potentially do with offline streaming services such as these, helping tribes get the rights to different movies and putting those movies in their local languages, things like that, and kind of creating those entertainment services to preserve culture and language. I think are really important aspects to kind of a holistic plan of what we would do if we got everything that we wanted. I think that would be one of the things that I would hope to see people continue.
And Max, I just appreciate that you've been supportive on that vision for years now, right? So, I know that a lot of folks are interested in tribal broadband and there's money on the table, but I'd like to say that I really respect the fact that you've been pushing on this vision and being very supportive for years now.
Well, let's keep going.
Yep.